Welcome back. This is the second video in my Designing a Starship series. And you don't really have to watch them in order, but if you want to see the first one, there will be a link in the description. In that first video, I discussed the gravity on the starships in my novel. I waited until this second video to describe the most important thing, the space travel itself. How is your starship supposed to travel from star to star when they are light years apart? It would take a few years to reach the nearest stars, even at light speed. To reach more distant stars would take more than a lifetime, so how are you supposed to reach them? There are space travel stories that make use of concepts like suspended animation, or even multiple generations of starship travelers. But it's a lot more common for a story to make use of some hypothetical faster-than-light travel. And it's usually just called faster than light, but it could be hyperdrive or warp speed. But the idea is that the ship can move through space faster than light in order to reach distant stars in a reasonable amount of time. The starships in Original Zin don't make use of that kind of travel, though. They don't actually move through space to get to another star. Instead, they vanish from one point, instantaneously reappearing at another. And that's hardly unique. The space travel in Frank Herbert's Dune series is instantaneous. It's also instantaneous in Asimov's Foundation series. He steeled himself just a little for the jump through hyperspace. The jump remained, and would probably remain forever, the only practical method for traveling between the stars. Through hyperspace, one could traverse the length of the galaxy in the interval between two neighboring instants of time. Gall had waited for the first of those jumps with a little dread curled gently in his stomach. And it ended in nothing more than a trifling jar. Well, in some ways, the space travel in Original Zin resembles that. One difference is the sensation of the travel. It is not a trifling jar. That moment of instantaneous transportation, it feels as though that moment is stretched out over an eternity. That's why they're called crawl ships. It feels as though they crawl through time. Another difference is that the ships in Original Zin cannot travel clear across the galaxy in a single crawl. The engines have to supply a certain finite amount of energy. The more energy, the farther the crawl. But there's natural limitations, so most trips through space require multiple crawls. Before it can crawl, a ship has to prime the engines for several hours. And then when it arrives at a distant point in space, it has to go through a cool-down maintenance period that lasts more than a day. So most of the journey is not spent actually traveling at all. Most of the journey is spent sitting still, just drifting through space while the engines are prepared. A crawl ship also has to have safeguards on it for the safety of the crew and passengers. Certain areas, like the living quarters, have bioseals on them. Anyone outside of a biosealed area during a crawl will not survive. And even inside a biosealed area, a crawl is quite an experience. Walker put his feet up on the desk. He leaned his chair back on two legs, just a little too far back. There was a lurch as his balance adjusted quickly. And that moment, the moment between nearly falling and achieving balance, was the moment the crawl set in. He stayed there, impossibly trapped between the fall and the correction. It went on and on. Then they arrived in real space. The chair clanked back onto all four legs again. It had been forever. It had been less than an instant. It defied normal sense of time. Well, that sense of stretched out time is why it's called a crawl. And experienced space travelers have methods of coping with it. If a moment is going to last forever, then you want it to be the right moment. Imagine taking a bite of your favorite chocolate when the crawl is setting in. In the story, the captain of the ship does exactly that. Then, when they arrive at some distant point, they sit around in space for a day or so until they can crawl again. Most trips take at least a few crawls. Long trips can take 20. But in Original Zin, the Malira 3's voyage is through a gap that is expected to last 40 crawls or more. A very long trip for a crawl ship, but hardly anything at all compared to what mere light speed could accomplish. Well, thanks for watching. There'll be links in the description to the rest of the Starship design videos, along with a link to the Originals in Product page on Amazon, so you can purchase your own copy of the ebook. And if you do read it, then thank you. If you like it, thank you twice. And if you convince other people to read it, then thank you 1,000 times. Hit the like button if you want to. Subscribe to the channel just in case I do make more videos. And share this if you know anyone who might be interested in it. I'll see you in the next one.